everybody. This is Dr. Lori Shemek.
And I'm Omar Cumberbatch. You're listening to This Podcast Burns Fat. Hey, Lori, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right. So we are rocking it these days with balloons in the sky, and I don't know.
I know. It's just getting stranger and stranger.
I
don't even know what to say about any of this stuff.
But we do have hope. We have a good doctor on the show today who may be able to help.
Yeah, hopefully you can help.
Yeah, we have Dr. Lawrence May on, and he's a Harvard-educated physician, Harvard Medical School, and his list is exceptional. His bio is long and incredible. So anyway, we're just honored to have him on today, and he talks about medical food, which is very interesting.
Yeah, no, it was really cool because, again, like we've been doing a show 3.5 years, and I've never heard of it. And it was cool that you were stumped by it because you kind of make reference to it in this episode. And yeah, we just constantly have opportunities to learn. And there's always something new out there that we could really benefit as far as getting our bodies in shape. And he actually talked about medical foods in a couple of different contexts, but of course we jumped into the weight loss concept with this medical food stuff. So he puts it in context, like it's not really a food and it's not really a supplement, which I found interesting. And yeah, it was just really a fascinating show. It
really is. And just adding to our base of knowledge here at This Podcast Burns Fat.
Yeah, absolutely. Just another tool in the toolbox.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's jump into the show.
Okay.
Hey, Dr. Lawrence, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good.
Thanks for stopping by. We're excited you're here. I know you have a lot of wisdom to impart.
I hope you'll find it that way.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Larry, could you do us a quick favor and just give us a little bit of background and tell us, the audience, about yourself, and so we can get to know you a little bit better?
Well, I'm a physician. I did my education in Boston, Harvard College Medical School, Mass General residency, and then I came out to California by choice. I ran a health service research center at the Wadsworth VA and a Center for Health Enhancement at UCLA. I then went into private practice, which I've done for approaching 40 years. And I've practiced as a junior associate for an old guy, a partner with one employee, an employer of 6 other internists, and now I have a intimate, friendly concierge practice and one employee who sees the patients who chose not to pay a retainer fee. I've always focused on prevention from my UCLA days and lifestyle, but I'm a conventional allopathic physician who uses medications by prescription, but also uses supplements. And one of the subjects we'll cover today is medical foods, which is different from drugs and different from supplements. It's kind of in between. You can make claims. The FDA has some dominion over it, but they're not, quote, approved. They are approved implicitly by the fact that medical foods use things that are part of the food chain, generally regarded as safe GRAS products. And the medical foods are scientifically based. They're patented. And among the many things they address is weight control, but we also deal with pain, sleep, cognition, and mental alertness, blood pressure. There are many applications because what they do is they generate neurotransmitters that are often deficient in people with conditions, and I don't want to call them diseases because I really focus those on things that our medications don't treat very well.
Right. Yeah, they make things worse actually in many times.
They can.
That's great to know about medical foods because, it's nice to know that you're ingesting something that is going to be healing in the body and not so disruptive in terms of not disease, but just the disruption, the side effects that occur. But yeah, that's great. Yeah, I would like to know more about it. And so what we really want to talk about is your feelings about diet and nutrition and what we're seeing nowadays with the obesity crisis we're having, type 2 diabetes, et cetera, et cetera.
At a younger and younger age as well.
Good point. Like the GLP-1s that are coming out for children. It's incredible.
Well, I will say wherein diet drugs have generally been harmful, the GLP-1s and the GIP-GLP-1 combo that just has come out are different from and better than the previously available drugs. However, they are ungodly expensive and they require injection. And it's a separate subject, which I'd be happy to come back and discuss. And I do see something in their future. And since I live in Malibu and used to live in Beverly Hills, and part of that world, they're being used by some very famous names who I know to get the 10 pounds to squeeze into a Slinky Alaya dress or something of that nature. But we're talking about health. And one of the fundamental principles of our medical foods is they address well-known physiologic deficiencies in neurotransmitters that are associated with pain, sleep, and obviously obesity.
Mm-hmm.
So, Doc, obviously, we're definitely going to get into the medical food for sure. But why do you believe, absent, your solutions to this? What's the issue, and why is this epidemic of obesity actually happening?
Well, it's a very interesting question. One of the obvious reasons is abundance and commercialization of processed food. So, my first admonition to patients is you don't eat your food from a bag or a box. And if it's bottled, processed, or packaged or canned, it should be banned. And if you start off with only eating those things from the tree, the ground, or the animal, and you can do without the animal if you choose, but food should be unadulterated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really, the prevalence of these types of foods it's everywhere. And also, I just like to add to what you said is the food engineering aspect of it. So when you do pick up those bags and those boxes, et cetera, there are people out there that literally create these foods so that you'll come back for more. That's their job. It's called the bliss point.
It's absolutely correct, and it's analogous to TikTok and many of the other social media things. It's the poison of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really something, isn't it? So, what is your feeling about inflammation, and how do your medical foods, for lack of a better word. I'd like to know how are they in capsules, the foods, or?
Yeah, we call them encapsulated medical foods.
Okay.
And we call what we use primarily are amino acids, which are the precursors for the neurotransmitters that define our life. And we know that certain medical conditions are precipitated or exacerbated by those deficiencies, and we address improving them in a process that we call targeted cellular technology. And it uses micrograms or small milligrams of the precursor amino acids. Many people sell 5-hydroxytryptophan to generate serotonin, but it may do it for a few days or a week, but it doesn't do it continuously. And our process addresses the adenosine break and the fact that people develop tolerance to drugs and to supplements and to amino acids. So it's a unique 5-step process of targeting the neurotransmitters that you need to improve the condition that is impairing the quality of your life.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. So I definitely think that we're going to have some follow-up questions just from the idea of, encapsulated medical food. So can you just really describe it? Because this is it different from a supplement? Can you just kind of differentiate?
Absolutely different from a supplement. And people do this. They'll go out and they'll buy an amino acid. They'll buy arginine, which helps with inflammation. It helps with endothelial dysfunction, but used alone, it may help for a day or two, and most of the studies have not been terribly effective. But what we do is we use the precursors that are specific to the need, and we'll talk about both appetite, satiety, thermogenesis, and fat burning. And we can address multiple neurotransmitters in this encapsulated food. So we'll take 5-hydroxytryptophan. Tryptophan is one of those amino acids which is a precursor for serotonin, which has something to do with depression, has something to do with appetite. We also have tyrosine, which is a precursor to catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine more for appetite, epinephrine more for fat burning. And the key thing is when you ingest the precursor or the targeted messenger amino acid, our products include something that is called an uptake stimulator. So the cells take up the precursor amino acid. We have a neuronal activator, so it starts to manufacture it. We have an adenosine brake inhibitor, caffeine being the most common, but there are other adenosine brake inhibitors. And for instance, we'll often use caffeine, but we can also have a decaffeinated version of it with a more theophylline-like ingredient that's naturally occurring. Everything is natural. And then we use a polyphenol, like grapeseed extract, to prevent the development of tolerance. So that's the overview of the medical food concept. And in the research we did the borrowed science by scouring the literature and seeing deficiencies. Fat people are deficient in serotonin, and they have less of the catecholamines at the time that they need it. And we address that deficiency with the medical foods. I think that you mentioned inflammation, which is really a fundamental part of all the diseases that both disable and kill us. And there's a difference between inflammation that is a good reaction to an insult, so that the body attacks the invader and heals. And then there's that low-grade chronic inflammation, which just eats up the body from the inside and contributes to diabetes, cancer, heart disease, etc. And the medical food we use for pain has been proven to lower CRP, C-reactive protein, and we studied it against NSAIDs, which, to my surprise, actually elevated CRP, which is a marker of inflammation.
Yes.
Again, that's a big separate subject, but we do know that healthy diets, whether it's the Mediterranean diet, the MIND diet, the DASH diet, and again, we can talk about the specific uses of each of those, but they are healthy and they contribute to lowering chronic inflammation.
That's really fantastic. Yeah, because as you said, the inflammation that's dangerous is the underlying cause of most illness, disease, faster aging, and weight gain. So very good. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the pain so the medical foods actually can take away the pain or the inflammation, or both.
Well, we've studied them, and we know that they relieve pain as you would measure it on validated instruments. We know that it lowers the markers of inflammation, not only CRP, but we also looked at interleukin 6. And unlike most things, the longer you use it, the more effective it becomes, and it does not lose its efficacy because it's constantly replacing the neurotransmitters you need. While the drugs we use, for instance, the drugs that address depression, are called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. The drugs we give for memory are cholinesterase inhibitors. What they basically do is leave you with the neurotransmitters you make for a longer time, but you ultimately develop some tolerance to that because none of the drugs help you manufacture more serotonin, help you manufacture more acetylcholine. The medical foods that we've developed actually address improving your endogenous, your self manufacturer of those neurotransmitters that regulate your life.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's what you want, ideally, because we tend to rely on supplementation to reduce the inflammation in our body. And that's not a good thing because we need the real endogenous production of it.
We need to support the physiology that we were given. And I think at the beginning we talked about the epidemic of obesity, and one of those, and without going into the differences in ethnic groups in terms of their level of obesity, one of the explanations is the people from certain subsistence societies developed what's sometimes called a thrifty gene. They became better at storing the food that they had infrequently or episodically. Now that we have the disease of abundance and they can go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac, fries, and a big fructose-laden soda, that gets stored in that big belly, which is associated with a less attractive appearance and diseases like diabetes. And not only the fat that you see on the outside, it's the visceral fat around your organs that's even more destructive.
Yeah, definitely. So, Doc, I was looking at the website, and you do have a variety of medical foods that are available. And one that I noticed immediately is the medical food called, you call it Aptrim.
Right.
How does that specifically fight obesity?
Well, it does it by working on multiple levels. One is it decreases your appetite and carbohydrate cravings. I have patients who constantly say, I'm a chocoholic, I'm a carboholic, I can't do without my bread. Then it also helps with early satiety so that you become satisfied with more, and it improves your endogenous physiology, your own thermogenesis, your own fat burning. If you watch 60 Minutes, there was a woman from my residency alma mater, the Mass General Hospital, I think 2 weeks ago on 60 Minutes, and she discussed the fact that genetics is important. There are people who don't eat that much and can't seem to lose weight. And the medical food helps repair both their endogenous and exogenous deficiencies in neurotransmitters. Some people are born lucky, and some people are born basically challenged. And our medical foods help both people control their appetite and more efficiently utilize their nutrition and not store it, but help burn it. I always say food is your fuel. And in the past, we were in a subsistence where hunter-gatherers, when they would find food, they would feast, and the people who survived were the ones who could take that and store it. We don't need to store it anymore, because when we store it in our fat, and we don't want to increase that fat. Yeah. So we have to compensate for what was an adaptive survival mechanism that now is really an epigenetic or acquired problem when you can stop at your fast food or get a big gulp or whatever they call it from the service station convenience store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. So can people take this along with their prescription drug, or say if they have a disease that they're dealing with?
Brilliant question, because when without giving you the company history, we initially only provided it through physicians, and they basically billed insurance at a very high price, and it would occasionally be reimbursed, and that was the business model. When Dr. Seinel and I recaptured the company, we now provide them. They are still medical foods. They were still things that were used by doctors for 20 years, but they're available to everybody at a much more realistic price point. They help the normal physiologic and normal functional capacity of the individual.
So Doc, that's really interesting, because obviously we want to find out more about this particular product. Like, what are the long-term side effects of encapsulated medical foods?
The same as the long-term side effects of eating your fruits and vegetables. There are no real side effects that we have seen. We make a caffeinated version, and we make a decaffeinated version only because there are a few people who are sensitive to caffeine. The amount of caffeine in it is the same as a half a cup of coffee. But the use of it, and I think I told you when we first met that my physician associate has lost over 130 pounds and maintained it, and has taken Abtrim, 2 pills before lunch, 2 pills and their capsules before dinner for 13 to 14 years with no adverse effect. And no patient has reported an adverse effect because it's just food. It's just amino acids and polyphenols and natural sources of caffeine or theobromine in the decaffeinated version.
So, Doc, would these be considered genetically modified foods?
No. Genetically modified. In my old days when I made meal replacements and we used soy protein, we rigorously avoided the GMO soy. There is no GMO products in any of our encapsulated medical foods.
Great, that's good to know.
Yeah, so it's really true. Let food be thy medicine. In this case. So yeah, I've not heard of this before, and it's really very interesting. And
I think that's one of the reasons we're doing podcasts, because other than the few hundred physicians and naturopaths who utilize these when it was a different business model, most physicians don't know what medical foods are.
Yeah. It's, we know about medical literal foods, but not as far as encapsulation goes. So that's excellent. And can I just ask you what separates your product from, say, an encapsulated supplement? Is it the amino acids involved?
Well, it's the process, what we call TCT, or target cellular technology, which is the patented process by which you don't just take an amino acid. If you do, you flood the body with it. You have to have something that encourages the cell at the time you take it to incorporate the amino acid, and then a neuronal activator to turn the cell on to manufacture the neurotransmitter, and then the caffeine, which is called an adenosine brake inhibitor, and then grapeseed extract or hawthorn or lycopene, which are polyphenols which prevent the development of tolerance. So the amino acid is that's the precursor, but the other natural ingredients help the cell take it up, turn the cell on, prevent it from turning off. Adenosine turns off the cell, and we can help produce the needed neurotransmitter to replete the deficiency, or where there's an increased turnover with pain or in overweight people, we compensate for that increased turnover, and we replace the deficient amino acid. And they should be taken on an empty stomach, because if you take it with your food, the protein in your food will compete with the amino acid that we have targeted to turn on the neurotransmitter production.
So I think to wrap, I guess you actually opened up a door to something that I'm actually curious about too. Like when you say targeted, is that generally for per individual, or it's a dosage that's specific to just the general population?
It works for everybody, but what I'm talking about targeting is we target the neurotransmitter that is needed in that particular condition, or for that particular person who is suffering from an overly aggressive appetite. We suppress neuropeptide Y, so to speak. And in pain, we increase serotonin and norepinephrine, just like the drug tramadol. So what we target is the neurotransmitter that you need, whoever you are. Now, it'll work better or less well in different people, but it's to the condition, not to the individual. However, the individual has the advantage of being able to titrate it up. Some people get a response with 1 capsule. Some people might take 3. And one of the products that we have, I don't need anything for weight control, so I don't take Aptrim. But one of our products that we call Centra AM targets acetylcholine, the master neurotransmitter. And that I take every day as soon as I wake up to help me focus on my patients and scoot through a very busy morning of seeing patients and remembering who I saw and everything about them, which if I don't take it, I miss it. So it's that particular product is targeted for acetylcholine. Aptrim, our weight loss product, is targeted to serotonin, which affects appetite. One of the things that I'm sure you know, Dr. Shemek, correct?
Correct.
Is that right?
That's perfect.
You know that your gut, and we use words like gut instinct, gut wrenching, because your gut is your second brain. And there's a great book by that, because the gut, some people think it's a more abundant source of serotonin, and the serotonin in the gut does affect your appetite, even though serotonin is most well known as an antidepressant. We talked about serotonin reuptake inhibitors, but our products are directed to increase the serotonin. We burn fat because we have catecholamines. One of the things you want to do to burn fat is exercise. One of the things you want to do to burn fat is not only aerobic exercise, which burns it by using more calories, but you want to build your muscle mass, because muscle metabolizes more than fat, and it actually weighs more. Sometimes when we're treating people effectively, they say, well, I'm not losing as much weight, because they're only losing the fat. They're not losing the muscle. You're maintaining the physiology that you need. So they're really quite remarkable. And for myself, the only one I use regularly is the one for cognition and what I call memory, attention, and concentration. And the Aptrim helps you feel satisfied with less. There are other tricks I tell my patients, because fiber is deficient in our ultra processed world. So one of the things I tell people is eat the skin and the peel, and toss most of the pulp, because all the nutrition is in the skin and the peel, and all the calories are in the pulp. Whether it's a healthy food like a grape or a blueberry, or a potato, which is a little less healthy because the white. So I tell my patients to bake their potato and scoop out the white and just eat the skin with a little white, and not with bacon bits and sour cream.
That's a good tip. Thanks for that.
Well, and then the other trick I use is I tell them to get a psyllium product, and you don't have to take the big branded one like Metamucil, but take the fiber before your meal with a big glass of water, and that will stretch your stomach a little bit, because one of the signals to satiety is stretching the stomach. It will absorb some of the cholesterol and sugar in your healthy diet, and it will improve your sanitation system.
Yeah. Well, that is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was really interesting. I said definitely a topic we haven't touched in the 3.5 years we've been doing this show. So I'm definitely excited to share this with the audience. And yeah, if you can just give us an opportunity to keep up with what you're doing, especially just the website where we can get more information on this particular product. And again, like you have many different types of supplement. Well, sorry, I said the wrong word. Many different types of medical foods on the website. So if you could tell us how to check it out and more information.
I think Cassandra sent you the information about the website and where people can get more information. So I hope you can put that out to your people. I'm pretty sure medicalfoods.com will work.
Yeah, medicalfoods.com is what I have, actually.
That's what I have.
That will work. And one of the last little things that I use with my patients, and some people have said, oh, you shouldn't say that, but the way you remember things is when you're a little bit shocked. You know, if you know the way lawyers are trained or physicians are trained, we ask a question which puts the person a little bit on edge, which is one of the best stimulators of catecholamines, of adrenaline, which we call epinephrine and norepinephrine. That's how you form permanent memories. That was Eric Cantor's work on memory, which won the Nobel Prize. So what I tell my patients when I'm trying to get their habits changed is I say, you know what cocaine looks like? And that tends to shock people, particularly a 70-year-old. They say, you know what it looks like. You've seen Scarface. You watched Woody Allen, blow his nose and spread the cocaine all over the cocktail table. So I say, it's a little white powder. So if you eliminate sugar, salt, and flour from your diet, you will lose weight. And as Dr. Shemek knows, if you write down what you eat, it will both change your behavior and you'll be able to show the psychologist or the dietitian or the physician that you're seeing what you're actually eating, and they can respond to it. I also use something called remote patient monitoring, where the patient can keep their food diary online, and I can respond and say, hot dogs are not the best thing to eat. And it's not just the salt, but you don't want to see how they're made. You don't want to see how the sausage is made. And that kind of immediate feedback is also helpful. But the habit of writing down what you consume makes your choices much more conscious.
It really works. You just have to do it.
And it's proven.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for everything. You've had some great information for our audience.
Yeah, no,
well,
absolutely.
I enjoyed talking to you, and there are lots of subjects we touched on. Happy to come back and talk about any of these other medical foods and problems that we all confront.
Yeah, no, we'd love that. Yeah, thank you, Doc. We appreciate your time tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Dr. Larry.
And thank you. And it's good meeting you. I hope to meet you again, maybe even in person.
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful. Yes. Absolutely. All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of This Podcast Burns Fat. We're so excited to have you as a listener, and we're hoping that you've really enjoyed the content as well. And if you did, please run over to iTunes and provide a rating and or review. It will go a long way in helping us continuously build our listenership up so that we can provide you with excellent content regarding fat loss, weight management, and just an overall healthy lifestyle. Thanks so much. Have a great night.